Well, Mark, thank you very much, and I welcome you back again in this wonderful studio. And we have really a very important subject to discuss at the moment right now that's frequently asked every time we go on a listing appointment. And I know that I'm not very good with numbers. Okay, this is why I'm not an accountant, and this is why I'm a sales, marketing expert. So I always call you when it comes to numbers, and I really do not want to make any mistakes when it comes to numbers because I want my clients to clearly understand in the end of the day what they will walk away with after all expenses. So let's dive in deeper into the closing costs, what's the client's typical expenses when they're selling a property, and let's take a very basic example of, let's say, be very generous and pick $1 million.
Okay, sure. So we're talking about, I guess, $1 million house that we're selling. And the reason why I say what type of property is because if it's a co-op, it's a little bit different. And also, it really depends where that house is located. If it's in the 5 boroughs, there are different closing costs that are involved.
Let's pretend it's in Fresh Meadows.
Okay, so we'll pretend that it's in Fresh Meadows and we're selling a house for $1 million. So if you are the seller, there's 3 types of closing costs generally that you need to be aware of. First is obviously your broker fee, so you have to know what the broker is entitled to get at the end of the closing. Second are transfer taxes. Now, people always ask me, well, what taxes are you referencing? For the purpose of the real estate transaction, what we're most concerned about are the transfer taxes because there's different types of taxes that could be applicable, right? You have capital gains tax, you potentially could have estate taxes, and you have transfer taxes. So what we're talking about right now is only the transfer tax component of it. And the way that the transfer taxes are paid in New York City and state, you pay 0.4% of the sales price, irrespective of where in the state you're selling. And if you're in the 5 boroughs and the sale price is above $500,000, you're paying 1.425% to the city. So cumulatively between city and state, for the transfer taxes, you're paying 1.825%. Now, clients sometimes ask me, well, can I do a 1031 on this? Or can I'm not making any money, or the city doesn't care. Because remember, this has nothing to do with your capital gain. They don't care whether you're making money or you're not. People say, well, I have an exclusion of $250,000 or $500,000 or whatever. That has nothing to do with this. In order for a deed to get recorded, the city and the state have their hands in every transaction. And as sellers, you have to pay basically 1.825% of the sales price to the city and state. And now remember, if it's $1 million property, the buyer also has a mansion tax that needs to be paid by the purchaser. That's something that we can discuss a little bit later when we're talking about closing costs for a buyer. But for a seller, it's broker fee, transfer taxes, title-related items such as unpaid taxes, unpaid water bills, utilities. Obviously, you have to satisfy your mortgage if one exists, or any other judgments or liens that come about against you in a title search, and your legal fees. That's the culmination of your expenses as a seller.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is so much information. When it comes to numbers, don't even invite me to that conversation.
Which is why you call me all the time. And look, we'd be happy to walk any of your clients because everyone, this is the biggest question we have. And thank God our office is very well equipped and they know we answer this day in and day out. So if I'm not available, your clients can definitely call our office. Our number is 212-888-8899. They can call our office, speak to one of our trained professionals who can walk them through the closing cost process. And obviously, we're here to help, guide them through it and kind of really delve into the nuances of that particular transaction.
Well, Mark, we discussed this previously, and I know it's a very sensitive topic that I come across a lot where my clients say, well, Olga, this bank quoted me at like 4%, I think, of a loan amount, and this bank quoted me at looks like a 6% of a loan amount. And as you know, I never want to say anything bad about any business or any company that we have surrounding us. I always want to maintain good relationship with everyone. But in the end of the day, you as an attorney, do you see sometimes unnecessary charges that your clients are paying? And how do you feel about it? And what is your take on like different variations of scenarios that you're witnessing that people paying different types of closing costs?
So closing costs do vary, and interest rates, right? So I think because that's what you were referring with regards to 4%, 6%, whatever,
Right.
with regards to kind of how it is. Now, I want to be very clear because it's very difficult for me as an attorney or for you as a real estate professional to kind of really look at a person's whole financial history. It's really the mortgage brokers and the lending institutions that take a look at the person's credit, income, debt to income, what their qualifications are, what their abilities are, what other debts they have, what type of programs they qualify for. These are not things that we generally are able to kind of look at, but we definitely have a lot of credible mortgage brokers that we work with that we can guide in the right direction as to qualified people who we've done tons of business with, who we know will get the deal closed. And who we have, we'd be comfortable referring to. And those are the types of people that generally will have a better perspective of the whole financial aspect, and they can guide a client. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. In January alone, my office has closed on one deal. It was a multi-million-dollar transaction where the interest rate was 4.625%. That was not the norm. That was a transaction that the client entered into months and months ago. They just had to extend it. And I've also closed on a transaction where the interest rate was 10.25%.
Wow.
Now, why is there such a huge spread? It's because of the different programs that were involved, the different types of lenders. Most deals are obviously not at either one of those ends. I mean, what I'm seeing for the most part, if a person has really good credit, and given kind of where the market's at right now, you're probably somewhere in the 6% range. But it depends. There are some banks right now who have certain incentive programs who are actively looking at loans and who are offering really, really favorable and comparable programs for their clients. So, but in a nutshell, I think that's kind of where the focus needs to be. Obviously, a person needs to know what they're qualified for, what their ability is, and what ultimately they need to do in order to get this deal closed.
Beautiful. Mark, you do so much work. And if you were to charge for every minute of every phone call you get, you would probably not have to work anymore. But I know that you guys are charging flat fees and, it is so much work that you guys do. Is it like all part of what is part of your charges? In the end of the day?
Well, first of all, thank you for
appreciating. Is there any hidden fees on your end?
So again, thank you for appreciating all of the, the hard work that we do. And you're right in that, it's a market that we're in right now. Ultimately, we don't charge by the hour. We don't charge, contingency. For the most part, our transactions are, flat fee. Now, there are certain aberrations or certain things that sometimes get out of whack. Like, for example, if there are title-related issues, if there are, some type of contention in the transaction. And I've had that, right, where we were fighting over the down payments or issues that arose, for whatever reason. Now, those things are generally outside the realm, but 99% of the transactions that we deal with generally are, they fall within the gamut of what we price into our flat fee basis. We try to be as comparable as possible. Look, we know we never strive to be, the cheapest game in town, so to speak, because that's not the value that we offer. The value that we offer is, you'll be able to always access your attorney. You'll have, someone who's capable to get your deal done, someone who's going to add value, and we definitely fulfill all of those items for our clients. But yes, if we were charging per hour, we'd be multi-millionaires. But nonetheless, I mean, the deal, the market that we're in, we're still very, blessed and thankful on the transactions that we work on. And look, at the end of the day, we make a living. So that's kind of what and the fulfillment that we get from the transactions is really kind of what makes this all worthwhile.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Mark, as an attorney, I personally feel that you always do the best you can for your clients. And if I were to ever hire you to represent me, would you promise me that you'll protect me and my best interest in everything that has pertaining to the transaction? I think this is the main question when we refer you, right? That clients would always question, do I trust him? And as you know, a lot of my clients, they're not in New York. As you know, a lot of my clients out of state. Like right now, I'm representing a client in the sale of his property. He's in Hong Kong. I never met him. I never spoke to him. Everything is by emails, everything is virtual, everything is through DocuSigns. So as you can imagine, it is more complex. It's a little bit sometimes more complicated because I have to stay up until midnight to work with that client while he's probably just woke up because it's morning for them. So the point is, how do you maneuver this type of clients and what type of level of experience they could expect from you?
So our motto in the office is every single deal that we look at, we always take a look at it from the perspective as if I am myself buying or if I am myself selling. So if we have that, perspective, and that's kind of the training that goes on with the team, if we have that perspective, I think it kind of really puts a lot of things in focus. Now, oftentimes, our clients direct us to do things that we ourselves would not be comfortable with. But look, at the end of the day, this is their deal. This is their transaction. Our job is to give them their options, and ultimately the decision obviously is with our client. With respect to trust, I think you nailed it on the head. You need to have a trusting relationship. I mean, because we're dealing with $1 million transactions in and out. I mean, if you can't have a trusting relationship with your counterparty or with the person that you're working with who's representing your interest, then obviously you have a problem. I mean, thank God I have represented other attorneys. I've represented sports figures. I've represented journalists, doctors, high net worth professionals, day in and day out. We interact with different types of people, and there's been multiple real estate agents and real estate brokers who have trusted us with their deals as well. And and when the time is right for you to buy or sell, we'll be looking at your transaction from the point of view as if we're buying it ourselves.
Thank you, Mark. It's always a pleasure speaking with professionals like you. And it's been my absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Olga.
Thank you.